Hey, welcome back. Here at the Market Mamas podcast, we cover a wide range of topics from the intricacies of day trading to mindset mastery and psychological growth, with the goal of the conversations being to next level growth for us all. My name is Becky, and I'm a US-based futures day trader from the Pacific Northwest. I've been trading for just over 3.5 years now and currently focus predominantly on day trading, the futures instrument for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, otherwise known as YM. I've dabbled in many types of trading before, options and swing trading, but I found that I most enjoyed the fast-paced world of intraday futures trading. So thank you for joining me here today on the podcast. And you guys, I am so excited because I have with me a very good friend of mine, Peter. He is a corporate intellectual property lawyer and the general counsel for Excel Health Inc., based in Washington. And I am so happy that you are here, Peter. You are my very good friend, and we have actually been trading together for a couple years now. We started at a first community, and then we grew to our advanced mentor, currently Jermaine, who I've mentioned endlessly because he's amazing. So we're both currently at that program and have grown together as traders. So thank you very much for being here with me.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure, Becky. Thank you.
Okay, so we have some good information that we want to bring for you guys today. So Peter, you have actually helped a lot of starting traders in our community with a number of fundamental startup tasks, such as getting them set up for day trading properly. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure, Becky. First of all, thank you again, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I've listened to many of your recordings, and you're doing a fantastic job with this site. So thank you. Yeah. So as Becky says, what we do exclusively, what Becky and I do exclusively, is we trade index futures. Okay. And the index future that we have focused on right now is the Dow. We both used to trade the S&P 500, and that's still a very fine instrument to trade. It's just sort of one sort of gets to know a certain instrument better, and then we sort of spend our time there because as Becky mentioned, you could do options, you can do swing, you can do all kinds of things. But I find for me, it's better to focus on one aspect of trading, one instrument to trade, and get really familiar with that. Okay. As you know, Becky, I've brought a number of people into our community, people who are friends of mine, people I know for a long time, people who just, have an interest in trading. And there are a number of things that are very important for people who want to get started. In this business. And I think that one thing to keep in mind is that when one goes on the internet or YouTube, there's all kinds of information about what to do. There's also all kinds of information about people who are advertising how much money they have made in a day or a week or a month, and most of it, I think, is very deceiving. Okay. Trading, as I tell people who join, it is the hardest thing I've ever done. Okay. And it's hard because the key is really extreme emotional discipline. Okay. And for me, and I think for you and others, and even our mentor, that is a continuous daily project of improvement. The weekends, I really spend time cultivating my psychology. So when the markets open on Monday, I'm ready to do what I need to do. Okay. Okay, so the first thing is when most traders start there's a lot of info. Well, you don't really need anything. You just need a computer and a browser and off you go. That's actually not the case, because particularly for day trading, right? If you don't have the proper infrastructure, you're really not setting yourself up for success. Okay. First thing, of course, is the most important, not the most, but one of the most important things is most people don't have enough bandwidth coming into their home. So when they're trading, so there are all kinds of recommendations, but I think if you have less than 50 or 100 Mbps in terms of internet speed upload and download coming into your home, it's going to be very hard to day trade. And that's particularly true like when the markets open, there's a lot of information or data that gets downloaded, from these trading sites. And basically, if you don't have enough internet speed, you're going to be behind the curve the whole time. Okay. Mm-hmm. Second thing I think is one's computer. Most people they'll go to Costco and pick up a computer for a few $100s, if that. And that's fine for watching Netflix. It's fine for, working on documents and being on browsers and, being on social media. It's not fine for day trading. And there are companies who specifically make computers for day trading. And I'm not an affiliate. I don't do anything, but the company that makes day trading computers that I like is a company called Easy Trading Computers. And, I have a desktop at home that is a trading computer. And if you go to the site Easy, 2 letters, you can see that, there's documents there about how fast your computer needs to be in order for you to successfully day trade. Otherwise, you experience this thing called slippage. All real slippage really means is that because there's delay or inefficiency in your system, you don't get the best fills on your trade, which means on every trade, you're actually losing money because you're maybe just, a quarter or 50 cents or $1 behind the people who get the good fills, right? And you think, well, that might not mean anything. Over time, that adds up, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say the first thing is one, make sure you have good internet speed. Two, make sure you have a reasonably fast computer. And then for day trading, Becky, is, you have to have multiple monitors, okay? And the reason you have to have multiple monitors is because, it's very important to be able to look at different time frames, particularly bigger time frames. And if you're always switching back and forth, it's very hard in day trading where, Becky, sometimes our trade lasts for minutes, right? And then we're done, right? How many days have we we're in the Pacific Northwest. So the New York market's open at 6:30 Pacific time. And, so many days you and I have been texting back and forth, and by 7 a.m. we're done, right, with our trading day, right? Yeah. And that means, we have to be able to glance at all these different time frames and at a glance be able to see what's happening, because as we know, the bigger time frames, govern what happens on the smaller time frames. And if we don't have that to be able to just take a glance, and see what's going on, and then sort of orchestrate our entry, right, we're at a disadvantage, right? So those are the three areas where people, I think in terms of infrastructure, should start.
Yes, I think that multiple monitors is so valuable, Peter, because you're right. Our day trading goes so fast, and it's harder, I think, to pay attention to your hourly and your 15-minute and your 5-minute, whatever you're executing on, with having to flip around all the time. So it's so much easier to just move your eyes for a moment and catch what you need to see. So that's an excellent tip about the value of multiple monitors. And funny story, I spent a minute really dialing in trading news, which I found early success with and I really enjoyed, but I was getting terrible slippage. And so that's the argument that Peter's talking about, is when there's high volatility, such as during news moments or at market open, it's moving so fast that you really want to be able to keep up with it as best you can in order to get in on the trade that you want, and not, 5 points difference, because that money makes such a big difference. And so Peter actually hooked me up with those resources that we're going to put in the show notes for any of you that want to know what we know, what we have learned. But it was very powerful because I used a lot of information from that, and my husband Rob hooked me up and upgraded my system, and now I have much less slippage issues. And it's really nice to not have that frustration, because in day trading, once you start getting good and you know where you want to get in and where you want to take it to, it can get under your skin if you can't get those fills right. And so it's really valuable information. I think new traders, if they're brand new to trading, they're in sim, they don't even know what a setup is, you can start with a smaller system. But then when you've decided you love day trading, like Peter and I decided years ago, and you want to commit to it and start getting really good, there's a time when all this stuff really starts to matter. So if you're going to be a day trader, there's parts of it that you got to dial in. And so that's a huge part. I'm like, Peter, come on, tell us the things because he has been invaluable to our community with hooking us up with this type of information that is making our executions just cleaner. And as a day trader, that's been a big deal. So thank you so much for sharing this information with us, Peter.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So tell me more about how you trade. What's your system? What has been your process like for funding? Do you do anything what do you do with that?
Yeah, I think before we talk about just some things what I tell people who are starting, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'd say that, obviously, Becky, the most important, people underestimate this, and I certainly did when I started. The most important thing is the psychology of trading. So I wanted to share with you sort of my process, okay, in the morning. Yes, and as you know, rarely in the course of a trading day, I'm rarely on the charts in the markets taking trades for more than an hour. Okay, I find if I'm on more than an hour, I'm committing one of the cardinal sins of trading, which is over trading, revenge trading, or FOMO, right, fear of missing out trading, and we have all done that. But I find if I limit myself to the trades I take, when I have sort of mapped out my strategy. Okay, those tend to be the best days for me. So I start off my morning. I wake up, as you know, I'm an early riser. Okay, so we're in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm usually up by 4:30 in the morning or so. I make my coffee. My meditation practice takes about an hour. So I start at 5 a.m. and I wrap up at about 6 a.m. And that's when Jermaine, our mentor, sends out his pre-market analysis for the day. That takes about usually 10 to 15 minutes. And the markets, as you know, open at 6:30, our time. And by then, I've sort of formulated my hypothesis, right? So what happens during the day, may or may not unfold, as I have sort of modeled. But what I do is that when the market opens, I'm looking at the bigger time frames and I'm thinking, okay, what has happened the previous few days? Given what has happened the previous few days, the previous week, the previous month, I have a hypothesis about what I'm expecting the market to do. Mm-hmm. And as you know, I post my trades, on our community channel. And so usually when the market opens, what I find in the New York session is it tends to react to bigger time frame zones, okay, whether they're supply zones or demand zones. And what I'm looking for is the market to move there. Doesn't always, right? It's a game of probabilities. When it does and it reacts, I'll get in. Okay. And, so that's the first thing is having a hypothesis about market open. And then once I do that trade or those two trades, I'm sort of done for a period of time because the market will then do its thing and I'll come back towards the latter part of the morning Pacific time. So for us, it'll be 10:30, 11, which East Coast time would be, 3 hours later. And then by that time, we have a lot of data about what the market's moving, right, Becky? So yes. We know that it's either rotational, going up and down like a sine wave.
What the profile looks like for the day, it's nearing its end. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Or if it's, imbalance up or imbalance down, we know that it'll be this or it'll be this. And then we can, model what we're going to do next accordingly, right? And yes. So there's the very early morning trade, which I know you like. And then once that's done, I find it's healthiest for me just to get off. This is where my day job is quite a blessing, right? Because I don't sit in front of the charts and wait for things to happen. I go and I put my attention on the things that I'm doing, which my day job I enjoy very much. And so I do that, and then later on in the morning I'll come back, and then all said and done, even with my morning trade and my late morning look at the charts, cumulatively, it's rarely more than an hour.
Yeah, I think there's tremendous value in taking your time in the morning to create a hypothesis and then executing based on your levels at key points very specifically. Like it's not haphazard once you've been in this game for a little while. You really decide when your trading hours are, what a great setup looks like, and when it generally presents. And then you aim to just nail one or two good trades instead of screwing around and scalping a ton of little points here and there. That's where when you start dialing in a true edge, like we are growing into, which is awesome. We do kind of get better at taking those trades. And I absolutely agree that the best setups of the day are generally first thing in the morning and towards the end of the day and it's different. And so I love how you said you'll go into your day job and focus there. And that brings you a very rewarding outlet for your body and your mind. And then when you come back, you sort of revisit what has shown, what the data has presented. And I think that we have to redo our trade plan, almost our hypothesis, because it's different. In the pre-market, you're working with yesterday's information and overnight. And then at the end of the day, you're working with what this day has shown you thus far. So it's almost like two separate trading sessions within one day. And I operate very similarly with that. It's powerful because you can get really good, clean setups with that system. And I love that we have a community that we're growing together because it's like we can kick these ideas back and forth because we're kind of learning similar stuff. And so sharing that has all really helped us evolve together. So it's another nod to having a strong trading community because we are so blessed to have what we do have.
We are very blessed. Yeah. And you're right. I think the early morning and then the late morning, or the 2 hours or so before market closes, it could be very different from how the market sort of opens up, right?
Yeah.
And the latter part of the day, I find the latter part of the morning, for us Pacific time is for me a higher probability time to trade because we have so much information now from the market, right, about what it's going to or what it wants to do, right? Whereas in the morning, it's a little bit of a it's a little bit less certain, let's say, right?
Yeah, and trading is our business. And so by delineating pre-market that these are our business hours, it's more effective because it kind of puts you in a state of mind of, what your intentions are with the benefit of your business. So you've studied, you back tested, you found where your most highest likely setups take place, and then you lock into just trying to only do those, which I love. So I don't have a corporate lawyer position, but I do work out and I parent and I grocery shop and I attend class during that time in between those market sessions. And so that's an excellent point as well about not being on your trading screen and hunting a trade middle of the day, because that's a recipe for getting chopped up and sometimes giving back your morning profits, which sucks. So we advise, both of us from different experiences, advise to maybe not when you have found statistically a period that is not your highest probability.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're being very humble. I mean, you are a remarkable person. We often call you a superwoman. You're raising young children. You're an ER nurse. Which is very, very hard to do. Then you're, of all things, day trader. Right? So, and then you run Market Mamas too. So
I'm busy.
You're not in want of a very busy life.
I love it.
Yeah. Hey, can I talk a little bit about psychology? Because I think that's kind of really important, right?
Yes, please.
So it's so funny because, what Jermaine has told us, what I've what I've worked on integrating is, the question of like, when you're a day trader, when are you not a day trader? Right. And the answer is never, right? It's 24 hours a day. And the thing about that, for both you and I can speak for myself more, but I know this is true for you as well. It's really made me a better person. It's made me do things, sort of differently, and look at the world, very differently. So I'll give you an example. One of which is I can't have major conflict in my life. Okay. And, I'm a lawyer, right? And so, and I used to be a litigator of all things. And so I have more of it in my life than I could have as a result of this, even though, the charts, 30 minutes to an hour a day, the remaining 24 hours, right? 23 hours, I have to be working on my mindset the whole time, right? That means no carrying around residual emotions that aren't supported for me, right? And this because I've texted you, and apologies to my beautiful wife, but it's like if my wife and I get into a spat, like I can't be trading the next day, okay? And the end result of that, from a psychology perspective, again, you and I have talked about this, is that it's made me do some pretty significant hygiene in terms of who I let into my life. Okay. And all the traders in our community, who are going through the psychology channel that you and I are going through, have done the exact same hygiene. It's like, what is in my life in terms of energy that is supportive, and what is not. And if it's not, it really does have to go, right? And the longevity of a relationship doesn't indicate the depth of the relationship, right? And so I've been rather ruthless about that. And some things we can't help, right? But many things we can. And if we can, I think it's worth, it's worth doing some work there. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, because I know Market Mamas has talked a lot about this particular subject.
Yeah. And I love how you talk about calling it relationship hygiene, because that's a really appropriate term. I do think that we have to control what we let in our minds, because emotional carryover is heavy. Like if something has happened in my life, work or relationship wise, that makes me feel anxious and on edge and upset, any kind of negative or concerning emotions, if I am bringing that into my morning and my head is constantly in the back of my mind, I'm reliving a conversation, or I'm worried about what that person thinks, and I'm wondering when I'm going to have that conversation again. I literally cannot be as focused on my process. I just am not as sharp. I'm not as focused. I'm not as positive and attentive to everything that I would otherwise be. And so I also have found and taken valuable education through our mentorship program that I also do far better when I just abstain from trading. That's a part of it too with growth as a trader, is that it's hard when you love trading and you have the capability, you have a great trading setup. You want to trade. I want to trade every day, but sometimes it's just not in my best interest to do so. And so I am also trying to respect that, because I have absolutely had terrible trading days coming off of something major in my life shifting that I'm not comfortable with. So I think that's very, very key advice for all traders who are starting to get good and you have an edge and you also want to execute on it every day. it's really valuable to respect your personal conditions coming into it. So absolutely excellent point, and I completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say, for me, it's all that, right? So this process in the morning, my meditation practice takes about an hour. Okay. And just to mention that I practice Kriya Yoga, whatever people do is fine, but that's very centering for me. And then it's funny because I do a lot of reading in the spiritual, area as well. And that helps, too. And I was reading something this morning. I'd like to just kind of read, for you, but it's very short, but it really hit me powerfully, because it's about the psychology. It says, under all circumstances, you should be calm and self-possessed. No one should be able to excite you. No matter what happens, if storms of trials come, you must be able to steer the ship of concentration calmly to the shores of blessedness. The ordinary person is influenced by their worldly environment. The person of concentration shapes their own life. They plan their day, finds at the end of the day that the plans are carried out. And there's a spiritual part to this. So they find themselves nearer to God and their goals. A weak person plans many wonderful things, but finds at the end of the day that they have been a victim of circumstances and bad habits. Such a person usually blames everyone but themselves. So finally, I get these spirits, and this is from the Self-Realization Fellowship home lesson. It's called The Art of Spiritual Behavior. Um, and it's funny, I read things, right? And then they hit me. And it's so interesting how relevant, as I turn my attention to this, the readings are, and they apply to my life, and they also apply, most importantly, to my trading, right? Do you find that as well?
Yes, absolutely. I find that there's so much crossover and things that make us a better person, a stronger, more steady, more concentrated, more focused, loving person. That absolutely plays over into trading because it just makes you, for me, I've leaned into gratitude over the last couple of years because it's like,
yes.
yeah, that is an extremely powerful mental choice for me. And I'm really focusing actually on teaching my children this from an earlier start also, because I feel like it's so powerful to just
Right.
kind of calm yourself and be like, my life already is abundant and I have amazing people in my life. And just learning this skill in and of itself is a gift. And bringing things like that into trading, it's not a technical skill. It's not a level creation ability. It's like a whole person transformation of like, I am calmer and I'm already satisfied and happy. So if I have to take, if I have to take a stop out in my trade this morning, it doesn't work. My life is still abundant and beautiful and powerful, and I still am very skilled and able to focus. And so I love that you lean into your spirituality because that's something that I'm improving with currently now as well. And you've shared some really powerful books and readings with me that have helped change me so far. And it's so much more calming to come at trading from that place because you don't need a daily win to feel some sort of satisfaction with your life is I think the biggest message for me through all of it is that I'm already blessed and happy and fulfilled. And so this is just an outlet that I am actively trying to, next level my family and have a greater impact in the world. But I'm good. And I love what you bring to our community and who you are as a person. I think maybe that's a big part of why we have become such good friends that we are, because you're open with that. And it's really powerful.
Thank you. That's well said. What you just said about the whole process as well. And you and I are going to, just so people know, that we're going to have a number of these discussions, going forward. We'll get more into the specificity
Yes.
of kind of about the trading itself. This is kind of pretty high level, but I love what you said. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so let's just get a little nuts and bolts. If a trader is fully set up, they're ready to be a day trader, how does it look for next steps? What's your experience with that?
So the next step is, I say, signing up with a proprietary trading firm. Okay, is this a good time for kind of that?
Yeah.
I'd say you and I have experimented with a number of them, and I won't talk about the ones that we don't use, but there are a couple that you and I think have both found to be quite good. The good thing about the proprietary trading firms is it means you pay a little bit of money to basically trade their money. Okay, and these firms often have 80, 90% discounts off the retail price, particularly during the holidays, even now. And I think you may be including your affiliate code down there for one or two of them.
Yes.
And so you can, for basically, less than $20, you can open up an account. It allows you to trade a disproportionate amount of money. You have to trade well until you reach a goal before you can go to a place, where it's the next level, right? And different, platforms call it differently, but let's just say top step, right? Top step, you start off with something called a trading combine, which is essentially just an evaluation phase. And then once you pass that, which means you reach your financial, profit target, you can move into, what they call an express funded account. And then in the express funded account, there's some hurdles you have to pass, at which point, you sort of get payouts. And, they're one of many, but I find them to be very solid. The other one that you and I use, were introduced to us by a colleague of ours, is Bulenox, right? It's a very strange, Bulenox, and it's basically the same idea, but the nomenclature is a little bit different. But they give you a certain amount, you trade, and then you get to what they call a master account. And then from a master account, you can then, start getting payouts. Okay. And you can have multiple of these, but the good thing about it is you don't risk your own capital, right? And when one is starting, even when one is experienced, it's very easy to lose one's capital very quickly. And the proprietary trading firm, what they do is, it by definition, right, you're limited to the loss of the amount that you've invested, into that account. And I think that's what I wish I had that. I knew about that when I started. It wasn't until I met Jermaine that he told me about it. And now you and I trade exclusively that, because we don't risk our own capital. The capital we risk is, the less than $20 we pay, right, to open up one of these accounts. And if they fail, well, that we know that, hey, that's the amount we have at risk, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that's what I very strongly encourage people to sort of do that.
Right. When I started trading, I did not hear about prop firms, and I think that they were much smaller. They weren't as widely advertised and available. And so I lost real money, like hard-earned money from my paychecks that I put into my trading account. And then when I lost, it was like, it was very painful, because, sometimes you could lose an entire paycheck in a day with day trading futures indexes. And that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
And so, finding funding companies, prop firms, was really kind of a light bulb moment for me to help me get, to be able to have the space to get better as a trader without carrying such a financial risk to my home and our personal finances. Because, like, I have a young family and I can't afford to be, just losing real money while I'm still dialing in my edge. And so I think that there will come a time when I'm a more advanced trader and I'm very consistent with my system, that I will get back into trading real money. But for the first couple of years, and where I'm at right now, 3.5 years into my trading journey, I'm very, very happy to be trading prop firms, because they hold the risk, right? I see them as my business partner in trading, because they're my funder. They're my business backer. They are providing me the capital that I need to execute my system, but they're holding the risk. And so there's fees for that. Sure, you have to buy it. But like Peter said, there's coupons that you can use. We have affiliate codes in the description below. So thank you for supporting Market Mamas. But it's great, because if you have, heaven forbid, a really hard day and you do just cannot nail it, and then you get into a revenge trade situation, whatever it might be, you have a really hard day, you don't lose several $1,000s. You lose 2 weeks worth of time potentially, and your fee. And so that is way easier to get back in the game with, versus a giant financial loss. And so, I really found great value in there. And I started with one funding company and ran into some issues with them where they actually were not as good as I thought they initially were. And so now I currently trade Top Step and Bulenox as well. And I really have found that they have been consistent with me and honest to their rules. And I think, well, I mean, we're not a part of their business. We are their customers. But they are our financial backers. So you have to understand, you read the fine print, watch videos. If you are setting up with a prop firm, learn who they are, read the reviews, and then the setup is pretty simple. They can integrate with most trading systems. And I think it's just calmer, to know that if you are not quite dialed in, no matter what your day will bring, you're okay. There's a risk with day trading to a huge psychological hit if you really blow up. I mean, heaven forbid, very bad things have happened to traders who have lost a lot of money that they otherwise needed for things in their life. And
That's
what I
great.
love about prop firms is that protects us from that. And there's a period while you're dialing in your trading that protection is invaluable until you really lock it in. That's what I love about them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if I, you and I will get more into the details of this, but I would tell you the couple of things that have really made a difference for me, both prop firm trading and trading in general. Okay, and I'd say number one, the most important thing for me personally that has turned the difference from just being a random trader to being, reasonably consistent. And I'm not as consistent as I would like to be. I don't know whether we ever all are. Is number one, most importantly, respecting my hard daily loss limit. Okay. And how I calculate that is with a prop firm, let's just say using a $50,000 account, right? Which I think right now costs something like $16 to open up. Okay. Um, in a $50,000 account, you can have a drawdown of $2,500. So if you draw below that in a day, that means you're going to fail. Okay. That account. And so what I do is I take that number and I divide it by what is an unlikely number of days that I could be red. Okay. And I would have to actually hit that string of days in order to fail the account. Okay. And for me, that number is 7. Okay. So the way that Jermaine has taught us to trade, it's unlikely. Okay. Not that it won't happen, that I would have 7 red days in a row. Okay. I have 2 red days in a row. Okay. And that happens, occasionally. Do I have 1 red day? Yeah. And you don't want to budget this, but it doesn't surprise me, for instance, that I have 1 red day a week. Okay. I mean, that I take that as, it's just the cost of doing business, right? 7 days in a row is very unlikely. So I take 2,500 and I kind of divide it by 7. My daily loss limit in my accounts is $350. Okay. Once I hit 350, I'm done. Okay. And, when I was trading earlier, like I wasn't done. I would adjust my as my daily loss limit, and then it would get worse, right? And the great thing about Top Step X, which is the Top Step trading platform, is they have this lockout. You can hit a button, or you can even program it. Once you hit 350, you're done, right? And you can't get back. There might be a way to get back in it. I don't know how it is, but it's like I don't think you can. Okay,
Let's
and
not find out. Let's not figure out
I'm
that.
not even going to look for it. But that would be the most. It's just respecting what that hard set a hard stop and respect, and that has made that's more important than anything else. It's more important than not over trading, because like once you hit it, it's kind of it's kind of done. So we'll talk about that more as we in another section. The second is then how does one sort of trade, because as a trader, right, you can't say, okay, I'm going to lose 350 and then make 350 the next day, right? You always want to put yourself in a position where the upside is more than the downside, right? And for me, the way that has really made a difference in terms of both getting, passing this sort of eval phase into the paying out phase is the first trade of the day. Okay, the first trade of the day for me is very small. Okay, it's 1 contract, or it's 5 micros, or it's something very, very small, because the market's moving quickly and I'm not really sure where the market's going, but I do have a hypothesis, right? And you and I have talked about this, but then if the first trade of the day is positive, right, that gives me a buffer, right? Now I have some money. So in some ways, I'm coming to the poker table with house money, okay? The money that I make that day, the good days, it's the next trade. It's not that trade, it's the next trade, okay? And, on really good days, that next trade, okay, I can go in with multiple contracts, okay? And I always look at the day, the structure such that worst case, I'm a daily loss limit, right? That's the very worst case. And usually after I come in with a buffer, usually my worst case there is I'm break even, right? Because I'll go in, but I'll move my stop loss to where I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to lose that day. I may not make a lot of money, but I won't lose that day. So those things have it's really changed the trading landscape for me, and I think you do something similar, right, Becky?
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that breakdown of your risk management, because that truly is key. Like, you can have all the edge in the world, but if you don't control your downsides, you're vulnerable. And that's not that's not a position that any of us want to be in. We want our wins to be able to compound. And so in order to do that, we have to control the days where we just aren't seeing it. And even like I consume a lot of content about trading. And I have found that consistently when you hear about traders that are really like well known for their success, that was a transformational point for them, is when they really just locked in their risk management and stopped having days where their accounts went way the heck down. And then their killer days could really grow. And I just love that. And so I love your breakdown of that. I do also have a daily loss limit and respect it. But I despite Jermaine's pushing at me, I do accept more risk than an average trader in our community. But I trade in a slightly different way. And it's a way that kind of works for me. So I'm still honestly a work in progress with the amount that I am willing to risk in a given trade. But also I'm kind of flexing with how it works for me. But I do not just have an open-ended risk ever, because I've tried that, and that just results by allowing that to be a potential. It opens the door for catastrophic days. And I have experienced those, and I don't prefer them for so many reasons. So I definitely am getting better at risk management. And that has allowed me to have the wins that I have had in recent months in this last year. And so I'm really, really grateful to be growing in that area, and with such a supportive community that really helps us dial that in. So I'm so glad that you brought up the breakdown of a potentially really powerful way to look at your risk management in terms of trading longevity for accounts. That's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And one of the things that's really helped me too is that book that you recommended to our community, which I read, called Best Loser Wins, by a really fine trader named Tom Hugard, I think. And I actually went up to Vancouver, British Columbia, to a seminar that he gave, right? And I invited you to come. You couldn't make it,
My kid had field day, and I volunteer for all of their events at school. So I was at field day while you were learning from one of the greats.
Gosh, yeah. But he came in, he spoke to us for like 2 hours, and he was very, very powerful. Phil, I don't know if you want to put the link to his book,
Yeah, I'll put the link to his book. And then we actually did a must-read review on that. That's what kind of prompted you, is that I did a Market Mama's episode on that book, which I'll also link in the description, because it's an excellent book, because it's such a true concept. And he covers it really well, that the best loser does win, because you have to be able to take a loss, keep it contained, in order to let yourself really become a big winner.
So easy to say, so hard to do, right? So hard to do, right? Mm-hmm. Best loser wins. It's like so true, right? So hard.
So that's the thing with Market Mamas, is that the whole point of this podcast is to bring resources that I have found have helped me level up, and that I think will help other people. And so that's why that episode about the best loser wins. That's why I brought my good friend Peter on here. And that's why I am definitely going to bring him back, because he is like a legit wealth of knowledge in so many different areas, with his background in life, and then in trading and technical skills and psychology and spirituality. So we could literally talk for hours, as we have done as friends and at your dinner table with your wife and your beautiful family. So come back on the show, Market Mama.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Peter, so much for your time. And we will keep coming at you with weekly episodes that release every Friday. Thank you very much, Peter. I'm so glad to have you here.
Yeah, this is fantastic. You're doing a great job, Becky. Okay, keep it up.
Thank you very much. All right, everyone, have an excellent day.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.